Hey there, today I will be sharing 5 of the best creative and delicious ways to use frozen meatballs. Let's go get to it. To kick us off today, we're making this meatball enchilada casserole. So on my cutting board right here, I'm going to cut this 32-ounce bag of frozen meatballs into smaller pieces. The meatballs are like partially thawed out, so they're not completely frozen, so they are easier to cut. But now that I'm finished with that, I am going to set my meatballs to the side. I have a 9x13 baking dish right here. I'm spraying it with plenty of nonstick spray. Next, add in a cup of frozen corn if you're a corn fan. Then I'm adding in a 4-ounce can of diced green chilies. If you don't like green chilies, you don't have to add them in, or you could use jalapenos as a substitute. Now I'm adding in a 28-ounce can of red enchilada sauce. Then toss in a 15-ounce can of drained and rinsed black beans. Add those meatballs in right now and give this a really good stir. You want the meatballs to be coated in the sauce, and you want everything well combined. After that, you are going to cover this tightly with aluminum foil. Bake this in a preheated oven to 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, remove this from the oven, discard that foil, and then you are going to sprinkle about 3/4 cup of Mexican style cheese over the top. Bake it for an additional 10 minutes, and then you can enjoy this dinner. Now, don't you go knocking this casserole until you try it. This enchilada casserole is so flavorful. This is not your average boring dinner that everybody makes. This is extremely good and extremely fun. We served ours over a bed of white rice. We also topped it with shredded lettuce, sour cream, avocado, and diced tomatoes. This is a fun, delicious dinner. Now we are making these Swedish meatballs, so I have a sheet pan right here, and onto my sheet pan, I'm adding a 32-ounce bag of frozen home-style meatballs. Bake these meatballs in a preheated oven to 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. This is going to make the meatballs extra crispy, but into this large Dutch oven on my stove, or you could just use a large pot, I added in 1/4 cup of butter. Once my butter melted, I added in 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour. Just whisk that flour in until it is almost like a golden color and the flour is like incorporated with the butter. Now slowly whisk in 3.5 cups of beef broth. You want to make sure you whisk this super slowly so the flour butter mixture doesn't become clumpy. I know we've all made recipes in the past and the flour comes out clumpy and ruins the recipe, so just make sure you whisk that broth in slowly. But into this pot of boiling water, I added in 10 ounces of egg noodles. Cook those egg noodles according to the package instructions. But now that my sauce has been simmering for about 5 minutes and it is thicker, I added in 3/4 cup of sour cream. Just whisk that sour cream in until it is incorporated with the sauce. Now add in the meatballs from the oven. Just do this carefully and let this cook together for a couple of minutes. Then add in your cooked egg noodles, and then you could serve this up. Here's what dinner looks like for this night. That sauce is so rich, creamy, and delicious for the Swedish meatballs. It really is super good. This is just an overall good dinner. I also served it with a side salad with spring mix, tomato, avocado, and then salad topper. And then for the dressing, I used this Skinny Girl salad dressing. It's like the poppy seed flavor. It was my first time using it for the salad, and it was really good. I didn't think it was too overpowering. Now we're making this meatball pasta bake. So I have a 9x13 baking dish right here. I'm spraying it with a nonstick spray. Now add in a 16-ounce bag of rotini pasta. This is uncooked pasta. Just add it right into your baking dish. Next, add in a 24-ounce jar of marinara sauce. You could use like fancy marinara sauce, really any type of marinara sauce you could use. Then add in 3 cups of water, then 16 ounces of frozen Italian style meatballs. Add in 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, and then about 3/4 cup of mozzarella cheese. Give this a stir, get everything coated in the water and the sauce, and then cover this tightly with foil. Bake this in a preheated oven to 425 degrees for about 25 minutes. After that cooking time is up, just remove the foil, give it a good stir, then sprinkle a cup of mozzarella cheese on the top. Bake this for an additional 15 minutes. This dinner is so easy to throw together. You literally just throw the ingredients into the baking dish. It is so simple. My little ones absolutely love this one, and it does make for great leftovers for the next day if you have extra. We served this with fresh carrots on the side, and we dipped the carrots in this ranch dressing. This is the Bolthouse Farms yogurt ranch dressing, and we really do like it a lot. Now we're making this rice and meatball dinner, so I have my cutting board here. I am going to dice a yellow onion into smaller pieces, also dice 3 large carrots into smaller pieces as well. Over to my Dutch oven, or you could use a large pot, add in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Once your oil is hot, add in the carrots, onion, and go ahead and toss in a tablespoon of minced garlic. Let this cook for about 5 to 8 minutes on the stove. You want your vegetables to get soft at this point. Once your vegetables are soft, add in a 32-ounce bag of frozen homestyle meatballs. You could use any brand or any type of frozen meatballs that you like for this recipe though. Just cook your meatballs on a higher heat for a couple of minutes until they are kind of like browned on the outside. This is going to give the meatballs added flavor. Now add in a 1.5 cups of uncooked white rice, followed by 3.5 cups of beef broth, a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of dried rosemary, then a half a teaspoon of dried thyme. This is really flavorful and good. Last thing I'm adding in is 1 cup of frozen peas. Give this a stir. Let this simmer on your stove covered for about 20 minutes. You do want to make sure you stir it occasionally while it's simmering. And then once the rice is tender, you could serve this up. But while it is cooking, if you do think it needs a little bit more broth, just add more broth in until your rice is tender. Here's what my plate of food looks like. We topped ours with a little bit of mozzarella cheese. This dinner is so unique and delicious. This is another one of those dinners that isn't your typical boring dinner. This is absolutely delicious, and if you make a lot of it, you could always freeze the extras and reheat it for a later date. Now we are making these sweet and sour meatballs, so we're going to get started on the cornstarch slurry first. This is going to help thicken up the sauce. It's 2 tablespoons of cornstarch with 1/4 cup of pineapple juice. Whisk it well until it is combined. Now over to the pan on my stove, I'm going to add in 2 cups of pineapple juice. This is going to be like the sweet and sour sauce now. Next, add in 1/2 cup of brown sugar, then 1/4 cup of ketchup, a tablespoon of soy sauce, then 1/2 cup of rice vinegar. Give this a really good stir and let this come up to a simmer. Once this does start to simmer, add in the cornstarch slurry and then add in the 32-ounce bag of frozen home-style meatballs. Bring this up to a simmer, and while this is coming up to a simmer, over to my Instant Pot. I'm going to get started on my Instant Pot white rice. This is like my favorite white rice ever. It is on page 53 in my cookbook, and it's in the sides and appetizers section. I love this section of my cookbook. If you have my cookbook, definitely look in this section for some yummy meals. But into my Instant Pot, I'm adding in a tablespoon of olive oil. Next, a cup of uncooked rinsed jasmine rice, or you could use regular white rice. Then 1.5 cups of cold water, and then a dash of salt and pepper. Put the lid on top and press the rice button, then press start and let your rice cook. Now I'm going to dice up a yellow bell pepper and a red bell pepper. Add the bell peppers into the sweet and sour meatballs and let this cook for about 12 minutes. Just let it simmer until the sauce is nice and sticky. Here's what my Instant Pot rice looks like once it is done cooking. If you have my cookbook, you will see where you could add in like taco seasoning to kind of like give the rice like a taco flavor, or Italian seasoning to give it Italian flavor. You could add seasonings to the rice if you would like to, but for this recipe, it is really good just plain white rice. Here's what the meatballs look like now that they are perfectly cooked, and just serve them up over the bed of rice. And here is what my plate of food looks like. We topped ours with a little bit of green onions and some sesame seeds. If you want to top this with pineapple chunks, you could also do that. That would be so good. The sauce for this recipe is so good. I could basically just swim in it or drink it. It really is that delicious and divine. You really need to try these sweet and sour meatballs. You won't be disappointed. I hope you found something for yourself today, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one. Bye for now.